Yes. Okay, perfect. So my name's Jo Baring. For those of you who don't know me, I am the director of the Ingram Collection, and I'm really happy just to be here to talk this morning a little bit about the Ingram Prize. But in order to do that, I just wanted to talk a bit about the Ingram Collection and what we do so that you have a sense of who we are, what we do, and then how the prize works. So the Ingram Collection, our sort of motto is working in partnerships with galleries, innovative spaces, and new talent to bring art to the widest possible audience. We are a charity, actually, so we've become a charity. So it was all started by someone called Chris Ingram. So Chris is a serial entrepreneur and philanthropist, and he began collecting in about 2002. And within a decade, he had created a substantial private collection of modern British art, and it was being regularly requested for exhibitions and loans, both to national and international galleries and museums. The calibre and the breadth of the collection, together with its active lending policy, means that the Ingram Collection is now recognised as one of the country's most significant and publicly accessible collections of modern British art. And in recent years, we had ventured into two new areas, supporting recently graduating artists, which is relevant for you, and not just, but yeah, and artists coming out of degree schools, and also exploring how access to art, making it as well as seeing it, can improve outcomes for disadvantaged groups. Chris made all his money in advertising, and he is pictured there with Gogglehead by Elizabeth Frink, which is one of his most is one of his favourites from the collection. And there's also a really fantastic holding of sculpture within the collection, which I can talk about in a minute. And from being a private collection, so literally just Chris going out and buying, we now hold over 600 works of art across three distinct collections: the Ingram Collection of Modern British Art, what we call the Ingram Contemporary Talent, and then Inside Out, which is the kind of outsider art collection. And all of these are available to borrow. And we're committed to using our collections to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to be inspired by art, no matter what their location or circumstances. And this is just a little quote from Chris, because I think it's important kind of not to forget about Chris. He was the founder of the collection. He has endowed the charity now so that we're able to do the work that we can. And also he's sort of what he's interested in is about accessibility. So he came from a background where he kind of left school with just some O-levels at the time and started off in the post stream of an ad agency and ended up kind of selling his own business for lots of money. So he's very kind of into supporting young people, giving people opportunities they wouldn't necessarily have. And he says, the moment I became passionate about art was in the late 1960s. While touring the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, I came across a large room full of impressionist paintings. It was a eureka moment. Collecting began much later and only started seriously when I discovered modern British art. Okay, so this is the Lightbox, which is a gallery museum in Woking, and it actually won the first Art Fund Museum of the Year prize back in, I think it was 2008. And it's a purpose-built gallery. And our relationship with the Lightbox, and that's really when Chris started showing the collection publicly, was that he'd already given, so he made money. He'd given a lot of money already to Woking, but also to charities, both nationally and internationally. He'd set up a family trust, and Woking were fundraising to build this new museum and gallery. And they obviously approached Chris. And at that time, he felt that he'd given enough money to Woking, but that he had this incredible museum quality collection, which at that point was just in storage. And that was absolutely tragic. So he said, okay, well, how about we try and come up with a new relationship with galleries and museums where I loan you my works, and, and we'll work out sort of if that works for me, if it works for you. They didn't have a permanent collection at that time, and they still don't actually. So they're reliant on the Ingram collection. And now that relationship has been going on since 2008, and we so they're on, the works from the Ingram collection are on medium-term loan to the Lightbox. 4 exhibitions each year are drawn from the Ingram collection at the Lightbox, and artworks are also rotated on display in the public galleries, which just increases the opportunity for members of the public and and the local community to see some of the finest examples of modern British art. And much of the Lightbox's learning and engagement programme is built around the collection. It has unrivaled access to works across the collections for projects involving students, mental health service users, blind and partially sighted visitors and other community groups. And that's the aspect of the collection that one of the aspects that we're most proud of, is that idea that, particularly with the visually impaired groups and the blind groups, is that we let people touch the sculptures, obviously with specially trained guides, in what you know, normally people, there's a big sign saying don't touch the sculptures. So because we're privately owned, but still a charity, we're able to just to be slightly different in terms of how we let people interact with the works. Okay, so Chris has said, and there's a lovely quote from Chris, which said, "I'm a collector who wants to share the enjoyment of these works with as many people as possible. I mean, whose cultural life is it?" So sharing this private collection publicly began when works from Ingram collection were lent to the Lightbox. And then since then, we've lent all over the country, places like Pallant House, the Royal Academy, Dulwich Picture Gallery. And we either do loans in response to specific requests from curators, or we can do our own shows. So we've done our last kind of major show was at the Ferrens Gallery in Hull last year. And we did another big show at the Jerwood Gallery, well, as was the Jerwood Gallery in Hastings, of modern British art. And so here, so as I said, the main kind of precepts of the collection was originally modern British. So I think I've picked out just some highlights for you to have a look at. So this is a 1940s Edward Burrough, which is obviously one of his wartime pictures down in Rye in East Sussex. He's got a very idiosyncratic and singular view, Burrough. Patrick Heron, obviously when people think about modern British, they normally think about the St Ives School. We've got examples of the majority of those artists who were working in St Ives at that time. This is a particularly beautiful Patrick Heron, 1952. And as I said earlier, one of the key strengths of the collection is in sculpture, particularly mid-century sculpture. So there's Chadwick, this beautiful Reg Butler, which is a unique piece, which when I was, they've got a very similar one at the Peggy Guggenheim in Venice, which is really interesting to see Butler kind of put alongside his international European peers. I think it places him in a different context. Lots of works by Paul Lotzi, Elizabeth Frink, which you saw Chris with earlier. This beautiful Henry Moore carve. It's made out of clay. It's plaster. It's red plaster, actually. It's very fragile. It's early 40s. Late 40s. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's when Moore was obviously spending all that time in the British Museum, and you can see those influences that he'd been picking up then. Barbara Hepworth, Caro. I mean, it's sort of a who's who really of 20th century British art. So I just picked out some of my particular favourites. And then this is a Ralph Brown, actually, Meat Porters, of when we lent it to the courtyard of the Royal Academy. And that actually is a really interesting sculpture because it's the one in Harlow in the Market Square was the first grade 2 listed sculpture in the UK. So as I said, going public. So for us, it's really important that it's not just a private collection, and that comes absolutely from Chris. So I was brought in to widen the reach. And we've also, as I said, turned it into a charity. And that does make it easier for me when approaching museums and galleries with works for loan, because obviously when you're coming from a private collection, people might think you're just trying to increase the provenance and the value, but obviously now it is really a genuinely philanthropic thing that we're trying to do. Sort of our objectives are to increase access and also increase knowledge about modern British art. And these are just some of the places that we have lent to. So you can see that we've got all the big names there, but also we also like to do kind of more, I say more random things, but Chris comes from a very entrepreneurial background. So he likes to loan things to places where you wouldn't normally expect to see art. For example, there's a brilliant charity called The Clink, which is a charity which is in prisons across the UK, and it's fantastic. It kind of encourages inmates to learn the restaurant trade, so cookery, service, and they're actually kind of functioning restaurants within prisons that you can go to. And we've lent works of art that we've bought from the Kersler Trust and the Big Issues, which are kind of works of art made by people in the criminal justice system, back to The Clink. So it's not just the kind of the glamorous side of the art world in those big museums and galleries. It's also places where people can really benefit from having art around them. And also we were, in addition to kind of buying modern British art, we were buying a lot from degree shows. So Chris kind of is most proud of the fact that he bought a lot of works by Haroon Mirza from his degree show, and we've kind of got an ongoing relationship with Haroon. And he's just one of the artists that we bought from his degree show. So Chris was on the UAL advisory board. We, have been going to degree shows for many years and buying works. And we also have a real kind of lack of hierarchy within the collection. So if works, if we're putting on a show somewhere, we always like to include works by the contemporary artists in the collection, not just those historical artworks, because we believe it makes it much more exciting to showcase works from across the breadth of the collection. And as we were collecting, we really thought, okay, we want to formalize this in some way. We were just collecting, we were just buying from degree shows and putting them in exhibitions, but we wanted to do more. And the more we talked to the artists whose work that we'd bought, or talking to artists at the degree shows, we felt that how we could be helpful was to set up a purchase prize. So in 2016, we held the first Ingram Collection Purchase Prize. Those are details. And it basically, we originally called it, well, Chris, as I said, comes from an advertising background. So he originally called it Young Contemporary Talent, which is a complete misnomer, because quite a lot of the people who've graduated, well, I think the name young is sort of wrong, because actually quite a lot of the people who've ended up winning are people who've maybe come back to do a master's later on in their career and later. So it's now being rebranded, and we're going to be launching the rebrand hopefully at the beginning of June, and it's going to be called the Ingram Prize. And so it's in its 5th year this year. So it is an annual purchase prize, and it is open to all UK art school graduates who have graduated from UK-based art schools within the last 5 years. That really is the kind of only restriction that we have. We have to put some kind of restrictions around it. So it's just that you have to have graduated from a UK-based art school within the last 5 years. It's free entry. There's no restrictions on size or media or anything. So, people who've come to the group show final will see that we've had performance, we've had all sorts, there's a whole breadth of media. So there's absolutely no restrictions on that. It's 2 entries per artist. And then there's a selling exhibition in central London. So what we do is normally we do a call out in June of the year. And then I think the deadline is normally around September. All those details will be made available when we do the call out. And then there is usually about 20 to 30 are selected to be finalists, and they have their work selected for a group show, which takes place in London at the Cello Factory in Waterloo. And in previous years, we've held a very successful and busy private view for the opening night. There's always a catalogue, and then the next day, or the day of the opening, we do a whole day where all the finalists spend the day with us at the gallery, and we get to know them, and also we invite people in to come and give talks about things that aren't necessarily spoken about before, various aspects of career. Also, some of the really unsexy stuff like copyright is really important to be aware of, and how to protect yourself. And that really comes from Chris's business side of things. So he, wants to kind of encourage people to think about how to protect themselves and how to kind of make your artistic practice, so how to build that practice so that you're able to make a living out of it. So we have, the selling exhibition, the catalogue and social media promotion, and then up to three, it's 3 every year, works are purchased and join the collection. And then for one of those winners, they get a solo show at the Lightbox. So there's in what's called the Art Fund Prize Gallery, which was built with the money that they got for winning the Art Fund Prize. And it's a small solo show in which the winner is encouraged to choose works from the Ingram collection to make new work in response to. We also now have started trialling a residency. We did the first year last year with a residency at a gallery in Somerset. And I know that there were two artists who were selected to go down to be interviewed for this residency this year, and unfortunately that had to be cancelled due to COVID, but hopefully those interviews can take place soon, and hopefully there will be a way of making that residency happen this year. There's also kind of networking events opportunities for all the finalists. So once you're kind of in the final and you're in that group show, you're kind of an alumni of the Ingram Prize. And so, we kind of say that you're part of the Ingram family almost. So it's kind of, we're available for all sorts of things. So quite a lot of the artists who've been in the prize I've written references for, if they're applying for a bursary or a residency or masters or whatever, I can help with that, introducing them to people. Also, we do, networking is a really horrible word, but we try and get your peer group together. So we do events kind of during the year where we try and get your peer group together, or whether it's everyone who's ever been involved in the Ingram Prize together for maybe some pizza and beer. And we did a really nice event where we went to the painter Nick Goss's studio, and the editor of Apollo, Tom Marks, came and they gave a talk. So Nick was able to give a talk about that kind of how he was choosing his gallery, how he got representation, all that sort of stuff, while we were kind of having pizza and beer, which is just really nice. And so we encourage our people who are part of the prize to get to know each other and get to know us. And we're always trying to make the offer better. As I said, we are a charity, and every year we talk to the participating artists to find out what it is that they want. That's how the residency came about, and that there was a need for that. And so maybe there might be more feedback about what you guys would also find useful in terms of the call out or the offer, how we can make it better and more relevant for you. So we're always changing it every year in response to feedback, because I don't know, I'm not a recently graduated artist, so I'm not 100% sure what you guys need. And so these are just some images of the exhibitions. That's the Cello Factory in Waterloo. And so, I've selected, so here are the sort of the most recent winners. So Tom Harker won in 2018. He was one of the winners, and he was Leeds, graduated from Leeds, and then was at the RCA, I think, during this time. And he was selected for the solo show at the Lightbox. This is Ben Hughes, who is City and Guilds sculpture student. And Phyllis, which I love Phyllis's work. And Phyllis is really interesting. So she is someone who actually came to, so that's why we sort of changed the idea of young contemporary talent, because it just doesn't make any sense, because Phyllis actually had a career in social work. She was a social worker, and then went back later on as a mature student to do her MA at Glasgow School of Art. So we love that. And then this is the 2019 exhibition. Lucy Gregory, who was at the Ruskin and the RCA. Alvin, incredible painter. And Emma Prempe. So Emma was at Goldsmiths, where she graduated from Goldsmiths, and she's actually been selected for the solo show this year. And here is a list of the previous Ingram Prize winners. I don't know if you might know some of these artists. And as we keep in touch with all the winners and all the people who've been in the group show. And during the lockdown, we've been running a series of Instagram Live interviews or kind of catch-ups with all of the participating artists, and kind of giving them an opportunity to tell us about what they've been up to, future projects they want publicised, and that sort of thing. And there we go. So the 2020 Ingram Prize. Follow us at Ingram Collection UK, because we'll be giving all the details about this year's prize on that. I mean, obviously, with the kind of situation as it is, we just don't know what kind of exhibition we will be able to do. It's scheduled for November this year. So we're going to do the call out as normal and hope that we will be able to run the exhibition. It may be that we can't have the big private view, but there will still be events that we'll be able to do. It might be that we do one-on-one professional development for the artists. So that's it. It's kind of a brief run through about the Ingram Collection, who we are, and then about the prize. So as I said, it's constantly evolving. We're always responding to feedback. So, and I just hope that as many of you apply for it as possible, because it is a genuinely philanthropic and charitable endeavour. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Joe. I'm just going to open it up to questions. So does anyone have any questions? I'll just unmute everyone. That's really great.
I've got a question. Hey Joe, how's it going?
Hi, yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Guess I'll be seeing you in a couple of
Yes,
hours.
exactly. So yeah, I'm interviewing you later at 4 o'clock, Theo. Is it 4 o'clock? Yes, looking forward to
Yeah.
it.
I guess I wanted to ask about, what's going on with degree shows at the moment.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of them are moving online. And I was just wondering how are you, I mean, are you and Chris kind of going to make a concerted effort to go on these websites or
Yeah,
what's
and
the,
especially Chris because he had a stroke a few years ago, so he's kind of definitely in the vulnerable category and housebound. So anything that he can do from home, he's got time. So, we've been sent the details of the various degree shows or been told, this is when it's kind of happening or these are going to be the logins. So absolutely going to be looking online. I mean, I don't know what impact that's going to have or how things are going to be, whether artists are choosing to do that or whether they're going to take the opportunity to maybe delay. I don't know. We'll see. But we're definitely going to have a look at that, the way things are presented.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see if if kind of students' work changes, even
Yeah,
subconsciously, to kind of
exactly.
gear towards that.
Exactly. I mean, I feel for those students who have been working towards a degree show, and now that's obviously a completely different ball game. So, I have a lot of empathy for them, but we'll have to just wait and
Yeah.
see how it pans out.
Theo, while you're here, can you talk a little bit about your experience as one of the finalists? It seems like a good time to.
Um, yeah, I don't know what can I say really. It was just really good fun, and Joe and kind of the whole team were kind of super supportive. Um,
Oh, great.
and yeah, I don't know. I mean, also it was just the gallery was in like a really good location, like just super central in Waterloo,
Yeah.
which I guess is kind of rare, um, especially if you're kind of fairly newly graduated. Um, I guess most people will be showing kind of east or south. That was just interesting, just in terms of location. Um, and also because there's, I guess in my year seems to be a lot of RCA people like
Yeah.
UCD, so it's good to meet people from my college from different years as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
know,
been
I was
good.
kind of aware of that. I don't want to have too many from one art school, so we're really aware of that. So if there's a way of kind of publicizing it to a kind of more wider network across the country, that would be really helpful. Um, but yeah, because I'm aware that, we don't want sort of all, the majority from certain schools.
Yeah, it's been nice as well to because quite a few of us have kept those connections going. Like
Yeah.
I'm Theo, through it, and we've kept in touch. And
Oh, did
then
you? Oh, I'm delighted.
and then Andrea as well. I knew already, but it was a nice chance to kind of
Oh yeah, she's great. Yeah.
and Daryl as well. It's like I hadn't seen him for years. It's like, oh hello. So yeah, it was it's nice that it seems that the community does stay, and through different years. I think Harrison's spoken about that too. That it
Yeah.
you make these connections and you keep them. It's not.
That's one of the things that we're most proud of actually is that sense of connection and community. And that's what kind of, that's what we really encourage. And we're lucky that everyone seems to be on the, you know, really appreciative of that and making that effort to make connections. And there are artists who have, you're saying you're reconnecting with people, that there are definitely artists who have made connections with people they didn't know before and are either then in group shows or sharing studios together. So that's all, something that we get a lot of pleasure from.
Any other questions from anyone else? Pat, have you got a question? Oh, Kat, are you muted?
What's that?
Have you got a question? I don't know. You
Oh,
come on.
kind of. Yeah, I've frozen. I can't see anything, but I'm still here. Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Oh, now you're moving. Oh, I can see everything again. That was so weird. Just wondering if you think that your selection of media might change due to the current situation. So, for example, you say you're really interested in sculpture. and that's something that I really enjoy, for example. But how might this potential situation, if you're going to showcase the exhibition in a different way, do you think you might change your like selection of media and include more video, for example, and less sculpture? But just curious.
That is a really, really interesting question, and I hadn't actually even thought about that, to be honest. You're completely right. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see what is submitted and whether there are a lot more video, film, kind of photography that's submitted. And obviously that would impact the selection. If there's a greater array of video and film which is sent in, then sort of I should imagine that there will be some really high quality things to select from. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pick sculpture just because someone sent in a sculpture. It has to be fulfill certain criteria. But actually, that's a really interesting question to reflect on. And at the moment, yeah, I don't know. And maybe later on we'll have a clearer sense of how we're going to present the show. At the moment, we don't know. And as I said, the call out is June. The deadline is September. So maybe over the summer. And I think maybe people are making very different work now as well. A lot of the artists that we've been speaking to who are alumni of the prize have said that their work is kind of quieter and also in different material, and a material that they normally hadn't considered working in. They've been using the time to learn new techniques and investigate new materials. So maybe it might be that the artists themselves, submit things which are in different media and potentially as different work than they would have done last year.
Yeah, that's quite interesting to think about. So, like me, for example, like I make quite large scale sculpture, but like you said, in the past few months, I haven't really been able to make any work. Yeah. So I would have a very kind of split portfolio if I were to submit something. So I possibly might, have one sculpture and one collage. I'm not sure yet.
Exactly.
Could be interesting. So I'm just thinking about different ways of presenting sculpture with a different language, maybe.
Yes, and I think it probably wouldn't be my selection, but it would be the works that are submitted are different due to the situation, due to people's ability to make work or have access to their studios.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. I mean, I'm really looking forward to kind of this year's selection and seeing what is submitted.
Yeah, no, I think it's really fantastic the way you talk about how you support everyone. It sounds like a really great community. So.
Oh, good. Well, I hope it's kind of for us. It's about getting the word out because I said it is a charity. We are trying to do our best, and also we try and just get feedback from you guys. So, as I said, I don't know what is helpful and what's not. So, we've definitely changed the offering since 2016 to now, and we're hopefully always trying to improve it.
I want to ask quickly, this is kind of more of a general question when it comes to open calls.
Go on.
How do you kind of go around evaluating or looking at sculpture, and do you have to like ask for more images from artists? Do they sometimes just send in a single image?
Yeah, sometimes I find it really annoying because we have like really clear, it's quite clear on the website, like exactly what to submit, and some people just don't send enough details. So yeah, if there's something that I think looks interesting, but I can't see it well enough, we'll definitely go back and say, can we send more images? Can you send a video of it? If it's kinetic, can I see it? Can you send a film? Sometimes what we do is if there's something that we love, but just can't accommodate practically, then we have gone back to artists to say, listen, we love this, we can't accommodate it, can you send some other works that you've made for us to have a look at? Because I don't think it's fair that just because something is really big or really heavy and that the floor can't accommodate some massive concrete piece doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to showcase that artist's work. So there was a particular work that I really wanted, and couldn't have it was just too heavy, so they sent, we got kind of just the drawings of it and then another piece, so it's that kind of thing. It is about being slightly pragmatic as well and kind of not just discounting something, so keeping those lines of communication open. in order, because, you know, it's not for us, it's for the artists to showcase their works. And also, you know, some really good stuff has come out of it, like Harrison, who you mentioned earlier, you know, he got a show at Compton Verney because our PR woman also does the PR for Compton Verney. She came for the show, saw Harrison's piece and was like, that'd be perfect for Compton Verney. And we'd already promised it to the Lightbox. So Harrison made a new piece for Compton Verney. And also, as you were saying, as Thea was saying, it's in a very different location to where you might normally show. And, you know, someone was just walking past, went in and loved it and kind of commissioned Harrison to make another piece. And we've had a lot of, you know, people coming in to buy as well, people that we don't know just because of the area that it's in. So that's an interesting thing as well. It's kind of opening up that commercial aspect too.
You'll probably get a lot of big concrete submissions now.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
Pat's kind of doing a drawing as we speak for a massive piece. So can I ask you a few questions generally about your career overall? Just like any highlights or any things that you found particularly challenging, or I don't know if you're able to talk about some of the other projects that you're doing.
Well, I've got lots of projects, but the one I'm most excited about is this podcast. I'm going to plug the podcast, which is called the podcast is called Sculpting Lives. So basically and it's all about, like, for me, like, the art world is so rewarding because of all the brilliant people in it, and loads of different people have been saying to me, you must meet this person called Sarah Victoria Turner. She's the deputy director at the Paul Mellon Centre. You'd love her. And apparently everyone was saying to her, you must meet Jo. And then we sort of had this lunch, and it was like a date, and we loved each other. And then really randomly on our lunch, we were like, let's do a podcast together. And so we've done this podcast on women sculptors, which has been supported by the Paul Mellon Centre. And it's 6 episodes, and it's all biographic. So the first is Hepworth. Then we've got Liz Frink, Kim Lim, who is amazing, who you're definitely going to be hearing more about. And then we've got Phillida, and then this is just because we had done Kathy Pilkington, but that's kind of been slightly delayed, and then Rana Begum. And obviously when the artists are alive, we've interviewed them, so Rana and Phillida, who is obviously a total, you know, goddess about the way she speaks, because obviously she's had such a long teaching career. She's so brilliant at speaking and kind of digesting information. And then, you know, where the artists are dead, we have been down, like with Hepworth, we went down to St Ives and up to the Hepworth in Yorkshire, and also spoke to Claire Lilly, you know, at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, who is, and she also curates frieze sculpture, and she talks really openly in the Rana episode about the difficulty of getting 50-50 gender parity at frieze sculpture. You know, she just can't, you know, she says, you know, she'll say to the gallery, I mean, she says it on the maybe we took it out. I think there was something she said which was really bad about kind of, I didn't want to get Claire in trouble, but, you know, like saying that she actually just, you know, she'll go to a gallery and she'll say, I really want this sculpture. And they'll say, if it's a woman, they'll say, oh, it's problematic, it's tricky. And if it's a man, she says, yes, they do. You know, that's fine. They can, how long, you know, we can do the fabrication in that time. It's not a problem. And we've had we thought Sculpting Lives would be a bit niche, but actually we've had lots of feedback and a lovely little Sculpting Lives community. So we're going to do more projects with Sculpting Lives, which is exciting. And I've also done lots of other random stuff, like I'm involved with Masterpiece, so I curated their sculpture last year, which was interesting because that is purely commercial. And again, you know, I wanted to have more women sculptors, and I couldn't really do that just because of what was available. So I just do lots of different stuff, but it's really, for me, the art world is just rewarding, and the best part is working with artists.
Yeah, we've had a few comments on the chat about how great the podcast is. I shared it.
Oh, thanks, guys.
And for me, it's definitely been an amazing part of lockdown to listen to them. I've got to listen to Rana next. Yeah.
Oh, Rana's brilliant because she's so frank about stuff. She's
super
cool.
Great. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Rana's
and she's really interesting also about the definition of sculpture. So that's something that we had noticed from kind of the chronological arc of the series, is that, you know, you go from Hepworth, who specifically talks about sculpture, and even Phillida says, I'm a sculptor, I make sculpture, to Rana, who is like, do not define me, don't box me, it's really unhelpful.
Yeah. Any last questions from anyone Anyone else? Okay, we do this every time, so I'm just going to change the view to the gallery view. So, and if we can unmute everyone and just give Jo a big clap and say thank you so much, Jo, for speaking to us.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks, guys. Really nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed